You wake up after a night of tossing and turning, your body heavy, your mind foggy, yet the day ahead demands effort. You push through, coffee in hand, deadlines looming, tasks multiplying, and still by midday, a wave of exhaustion crashes over you. You've done everything right: exercise, sleep schedules, hydration, routines, but nothing seems to replenish you. Why is it that no matter how hard you try, your energy feels borrowed, fleeting, like sand slipping through your fingers? Most people assume tiredness is physical, a result of poor rest or lack of willpower. They chase quick fixes, another cup of coffee, a nap, a motivational quote, and wonder why the cycle persists. The truth is far more subtle and far more powerful. Exhaustion is rarely about the body. It is about energy misaligned, scattered focus, and the invisible friction of living against your natural flow. The more you push against it, the more drained you become, trapped in a loop that feels personal, but is profoundly universal. Imagine then a figure from centuries past who moved through life with a mastery of energy so precise it seems supernatural. Miyamoto Musashi, legendary swordsman and philosopher, did not simply train his body. He trained the currents of attention and intention within him. He understood that true vitality comes from coherence. When mind, body, and focus are synchronized, exhaustion loses its grip, replaced by a quiet, inexhaustible force. Musashi's insight offers more than historical curiosity. It is a mirror for your own life, a promise that what you feel as relentless fatigue can be untangled and transformed. There is a secret, one that no modern guidebook teaches, one that requires looking past the obvious, past the temporary fixes, and into the subtle architecture of energy itself. By studying this ancient approach, you begin to see why the hours you spend working hard can leave you depleted, and how mastery over focus, intention, and internal alignment can turn that exhaustion into strength. The path ahead is not about doing more. It is about aligning differently, thinking differently, moving differently, and awakening a power within you that has been waiting quietly all along. Tishi had built his life around effort. Every morning began before dawn. Every evening ended with exhaustion that seemed to seep into his bones. He trained, he worked, he pushed. Yet by the end of the week, he felt hollow, as if every ounce of energy he earned was quietly slipping away. His success, his progress, even his accolades brought little satisfaction, only the gnawing awareness that something essential was missing. It wasn't the hours he put in or the intensity of his work. It was the subtle, almost invisible drain of misaligned energy. Yamamoto, an older figure of calm authority, observed Tishi's struggle with quiet understanding. "You are carrying stones," he said one afternoon, his voice steady yet insistent. "Every action not in harmony with your true purpose adds weight. Every need to prove yourself, every glance to see how you compare, every effort to earn validation, these are stones. You carry them everywhere and you wonder why you are tired." The image struck Tishi like a sudden gust of wind. Stones. They were not physical, but their weight was real, pressing on his shoulders, clouding his mind, dimming his vitality. Suddenly, he saw his own life differently. Every task he forced himself to complete out of obligation. Every conversation he engaged in to impress or avoid judgment. Every minute spent chasing approval. It was a collection of stones he didn't even recognize as burdens. Yamamoto continued, "The world has taught you to chase achievement, but energy is not earned in effort alone. It is cultivated in alignment. When your actions, thoughts, and focus follow the path meant for you, the stones fall away naturally. Until then, you will move through life exhausted, carrying weights no one else can see." Tishi's mind raced, questions stirring like a storm. How many stones did he carry that he had mistaken for responsibility, for ambition, for duty? And if each one was removable, what power might he reclaim once the unnecessary weight was gone? The answer, Yamamoto suggested, was ancient, tested, precise. A method that Musashi himself had mastered centuries ago. A way to identify the stones, release them without hesitation, and move through the world with a vitality that felt impossible in Tishi's current state. For the first time in months, exhaustion felt like a message rather than a punishment, a signal that the path he had been following needed correction. Tishi understood that real energy was not in relentless effort, but in conscious alignment. The stones were real, their weight undeniable, and yet, with guidance, they could be lifted. What remained was the question of how, and the promise that this secret method could transform not just his day-to-day energy, but his very way of being. Tishi began with the simplest of steps, clearing the clutter that had quietly accumulated in his life. Drawers overflowed with items he no longer used, papers stacked in corners, digital notifications screaming for attention. Each object, each pending message, each obligation was a subtle anchor, a distraction that pulled energy away from the present. He remembered Musashi, centuries earlier, walking lightly through the world, carrying only what was essential, moving as though the universe had folded itself around him. The principle was clear: remove the unnecessary, and the space left behind becomes the vessel for true energy. Tishi discarded, donated, and reorganized, each action leaving him strangely lighter. But the possessions were only the first layer. The deeper work lay within. Thoughts, habits, and attachments were far heavier stones than anything physical. He noticed how often his mind drifted, worrying about judgment, replaying past mistakes, projecting anxieties into the future. Each distraction was a leak, siphoning energy that could be focused entirely on the present moment. To practice presence, Tishi started small, deliberately engaging with each action fully. Washing dishes became a meditation, each movement precise, attentive. Walking down the street, he felt the rhythm of his steps, the pull of his breath, the subtle textures of the world around him. Slowly, he began to sense a coherence between mind and body, a quiet alignment that had been absent for years. Musashi had written that energy flows where attention rests. The lesson was alive in Tishi's own movements. Yet alignment demanded more than focus. It demanded detachment. He realized how much of his previous exhaustion came from clinging to outcomes, comparing himself to others, seeking validation through achievements and recognition. Every unmet expectation had been a stone, every envy a chain. Practicing non-attachment, he learned to act fully without needing the world to respond. Projects were pursued for their own sake, relationships engaged with sincerity rather than performance, and failures observed as information, not as identity. Over days and weeks, these principles coalesced into a routine of intentional simplicity. Tishi structured his schedule around priorities rather than urgency, leaving pockets of unclaimed time to restore and recalibrate. He declined invitations and obligations that did not serve his path, freed from the subtle guilt of approval seeking. His mind, once a restless tide, now carried clarity and purpose, and his body mirrored this transformation with increased vitality. The invisible stones, the weights of distraction, expectation, and misalignment began to dissolve. Energy that had once scattered like wind now moved through him in a steady, coherent current, allowing him to work, create, and live with a focus that was palpable. He was not merely less tired, he was awake in a way he had never known, feeling the resonance of each action, the power of alignment between intention and movement. Musashi's principles were not theoretical. They were lived, practiced, and proven through consistency and awareness. The challenge remained. Could Tishi sustain this, or would old habits return to scatter his energy once more? The tension of possibility, the subtle suspense of mastery, hung in the air, promising that true vitality was not a fleeting experience but a practice rooted in the disciplined harmony of mind, body, and focus, waiting for anyone willing to remove the stones and walk lightly in the world. Tishi's days began before the sun touched the horizon, and each night ended long after it had disappeared. The early weeks were the hardest, not physically, but mentally. He felt the old habits pulling at him like invisible tethers, an urge to check his phone, replay conversations in his mind, worry about what others thought of his progress. Each distraction, however small, reminded him how easily energy could leak away, how effortless it was to fall back into exhaustion. Yet, he persisted, guided by Musashi's principles and the quiet memory of Yamamoto's warning about the stones he carried. Step by step, he simplified his environment, cleared unnecessary possessions, and structured his schedule around deliberate priorities. In those small victories, he began to notice subtle shifts, a sense of calm rising when his focus remained uninterrupted, a lightness in his body he had long forgotten, a clarity in thought that was no longer interrupted by the pull of comparison. Energy that had once scattered now remained coherent, concentrated in each action, flowing from mind to body as naturally as breath. Tishi discovered that alignment was not a sudden revelation, but a gradual cultivation. Each day of practice, each mindful task, strengthened the channels through which his vitality traveled. Washing dishes, walking, writing, even performing repetitive tasks became exercises in presence. Each movement harmonized with thought, intention, and awareness. Flow emerged slowly, a quiet undercurrent, first noticed in brief moments, then stretching into hours. There were setbacks, of course. Friends invited him into distractions. Old habits whispered with familiar voices. Doubts crept in like shadows. Was he missing out? Was he making the wrong choices? Comparisons flared. What about those who seemed to achieve more effortlessly, who rested less, who chased recognition he now ignored? Musashi's wisdom became his anchor. Tishi reminded himself that energy wasted on validation, envy or fear of missing out was energy lost forever. With practice, he learned to redirect attention without resistance, to observe distractions without surrender, and to act with intention even under pressure. His mind grew quieter, his body responded with less effort, and decisions that once demanded struggle now flowed naturally. Challenges still appeared, but each became an opportunity to reinforce alignment. A sudden task would test his focus. An unexpected obligation tempted old habits. Exhaustion tried to reclaim him, but each time he responded with the principles he had internalized. Musashi's teachings were no longer abstract. They were lived, breathed, and etched into his daily rhythm. The transformation was profound. What had once felt like relentless toil became purposeful movement. What had felt like constant fatigue became an undercurrent of sustained vitality. Energy was no longer something borrowed or fleeting. It was his own, directed and coherent, available for creation, focus, and presence. Yet, even as flow became familiar, Tishi sensed that the true test awaited, a situation of real pressure, where distractions, fatigue, and expectation would converge, demanding every ounce of alignment he had cultivated. Could the harmony between mind, body, and energy withstand that intensity? Would the principles endure when the stakes were highest, when old habits whispered the loudest? The anticipation was both thrilling and daunting, a final threshold that promised to reveal whether mastery was a temporary glimpse or a permanent state. In the quiet moments between tasks, between breaths, Tishi felt the power of transformation. The exhaustion that had once defined him now replaced by a tangible, almost electric presence. Every movement carried weight and intention. Every thought sharpened his focus, and each day reinforced that energy. Once scattered and stolen, could be reclaimed, directed, and lived as a natural, unbroken flow. The day of the test arrived with a weight that pressed on Tishi's chest, heavier than any fatigue he had ever known. This was no ordinary challenge. It was a convergence of every distraction, doubt, and pressure he had faced. A trial designed to reveal whether the weeks and months of alignment had truly transformed him. Across from him, opponents, colleagues, rivals, and even fragments of his old self moved with urgency and strain, energy splintered across tasks, thoughts, and anxieties. Their motions were hurried, reactive, desperate for control, yet all their effort produced only tension and exhaustion. Tishi observed them for a heartbeat, noting the difference between their scattered energy and the quiet coherence that now resided in him. His own body felt light, his mind alert, his attention steady. The countless stones he had carried, worries, comparisons, clinging to validation, had fallen away, leaving a core of presence unbroken by pressure. He remembered Musashi's words: "Mastery is revealed not in ease, but in the crucible of high stakes, when alignment is tested against the weight of circumstance." A question lingered in Tishi's mind. Could this calm, focused energy hold when the stakes demanded everything? The answer emerged as he moved, each action deliberate, each thought clear, each decision instinctive yet conscious. Where others strained, he flowed. Where others fractured under pressure, he remained coherent. Energy, once elusive, now circulated effortlessly through body and mind, allowing him to act without hesitation, to respond without fear, to execute with precision that seemed almost instinctive. Challenges arrived in rapid succession, unexpected interruptions, last-minute demands, the siren call of comparison, but he met each with the same principle: full presence, non-attachment to outcome, unwavering focus. For the first time, effort felt unnecessary, replaced by a fluidity that carried him through obstacles like water slipping over stones. His opponents faltered, trapped in their own scattered currents, while he moved with a rhythm that required neither force nor strain. The test reached its apex, a moment where success and failure converged, where fatigue and distraction could have undone him in an instant. Yet Tishi remained rooted, a silent center in the storm, each breath and movement aligned with intention. Victory was not loud or dramatic. It was a quiet confirmation of truth. The mastery Musashi had written about centuries ago was alive in him now, demonstrating that energy harnessed through alignment, not effort alone, produces results beyond mere endurance. Relief washed through him, not as a fleeting sensation, but as an embodied understanding. True vitality comes from clarity, presence, and the disciplined removal of internal obstacles. Every challenge afterward felt lighter, every decision clearer, every action more potent. He had faced the ultimate test and emerged not merely successful but transformed, embodying the principle that boundless energy is a product of alignment, not force. Observing the exhaustion around him, he understood a universal lesson. Most struggle and fatigue are self-imposed, born from scattered attention, attachment to outcomes, and the constant pursuit of external approval. Tishi's transformation was proof, vivid and undeniable, that by applying the ancient principles of focus, simplification, and presence, anyone can reclaim energy thought lost, act with precision under pressure, and move through life with a mastery that feels effortless, yet profoundly powerful. The stones were gone, and in their absence, the world appeared unburdened, alive, and entirely within reach. Tishi stood before a small group, the sun casting long shadows across the training ground, and realized that mastery was not about effort, schedules, or relentless toil. It was about alignment. He shared the truth that had transformed his life. Energy does not come from more sleep, caffeine, or pushing harder. It comes from presence, focus, and the careful removal of the stones that weigh the mind and body down. Each student leaned in, sensing the weight of the lesson, understanding that exhaustion is rarely a measure of dedication, but often a signal of misalignment. Tishi demonstrated the simplicity of action, how to carry oneself with intention, how to declutter both environment and thought, how to act without clinging to outcomes. In teaching others, he felt the lesson deepen within himself. Wisdom grows when shared, and the principles of Musashi, passed through centuries, gained life once more. Yet this is not merely a story for distant lands or historic minds. It is for you, reading these words now. How often do you feel drained, racing against your own energy, chasing results that never satisfy? The path forward begins with awareness. Ask yourself, what stones am I carrying? Which habits, thoughts, or attachments quietly steal my vitality? Begin today by clearing one small distraction, focusing fully on a single task, or releasing the need to compare yourself to others. These actions, seemingly minor, ripple through your day, creating space for energy to flow naturally. Alignment is not a one-time event. It is a practice, a lineage of attention and presence that anyone can join, starting now. Imagine living each day with your energy intact, moving through work, relationships, and challenges with a sense of effortless flow, unburdened by unnecessary weight. The choice is yours. Continue carrying the stones, or step onto the straight path of mindful action, clarity, and vitality. Every moment you hesitate is energy lost. Every deliberate step brings you closer to mastery, calm, and sustained strength. Start today with one conscious act, and join the countless others who have discovered that true energy is cultivated from within, aligned, unbroken, and wholly alive.